There is a ton of interesting data right now. Of course, we have Rocket Buy and Redfin. We've got tariffs. We've got rates. We had this PPI, CPI come in. But, we really got to keep our priorities straight here. And there's something that no one's talking about that I am really, really worried about. And that is the whiskey tariffs going on right now with the European Union, with the United States. Come on now, not the whiskey.
That's what I'm looking for. All the whiskey ain't working anymore.
So whiskey's being tariffed, really everything's being, talking about being tariffed. Is it a ploy? What's going to happen? No one knows. It's not a political channel. But as far as the markets, the stock market certainly is in doubt of what's going to happen, which is where you see the sell-off in the market. And interest rates have actually been a beneficiary of that, because as the stock market gets less confidence, that money moves into bonds, into treasuries, and that actually helps interest rates. But the big news over the last week or so was the purchase of Rocket Mortgage to buy Redfin. And the reason this is a big deal is if you look right here, that with Redfin, it gives them the potential to capture 1 in every 6 purchase loans going forward. That is huge. And it could see their market share quadruple from 4% to 16%. And when you kind of look how they stack up here, United Wholesale Mortgage, I'm on the broker side. This is who UWM services, and Rocket Mortgage also has a wholesale arm, what we work with on the broker channel. And you can see they're going to be drastically bumping up on the scale. And between UWM and Rocket Mortgage, they really, by volume, just destroy really all the competition. Now, is this good or bad? I always say data is just data. Obviously, companies that get really, really big control a lot of pricing power, so that can be bad, especially in the long term. The way I've kind of always looked, there's always been Rocket Mortgages, big banks, big lenders, that is where, if you're watching this video, you're probably a real estate agent, a mortgage professional, and service, dealing with real people, and actually having somebody that's taking an interest in your actual transaction when you're buying a house is how we set ourselves apart. And as those companies get bigger, it does get easier and easier to do that, because even though they have great systems, it's really just hard for anyone. There's no Mr. Rocket Mortgage to care about one particular client. So it does, in my opinion, give us a competitive advantage, which as a smaller company, I like to have. Now with interest rates, what's really interesting is rates are on their way down, but they've kind of stabilized here. We'll look here at rates here for a second. Right now, rates are just trading in this 6.75% range. We had this drop, and we also had a jump in mortgage applications. Mortgage applications rose 11.2%. That is a big jump in mortgage applications, and why is because we are kind of consolidating around the 6.75%. Now this chart shows something that I've been saying for a long time, which is kind of obvious, but a lot of people, when we got 8% rates, was waiting for the big market correction. That actually never happened. Actually, let's look at this first, and you can see why people thought that, right? We had this huge run up of existing home sales, and this is obviously in the crash of 2008, and this big drop, right? We just fell off a cliff. Same thing, we had this huge run up of home sales, and look at this huge drop. So you can see the similarities and why people thought that there could be some kind of big market correction. And it's not rocket science. It's really just that there's so many people with super low rates, lots of equity, that even though the existing home sales, when you see right here, fell off a cliff down to 4 million, it really didn't affect pricing all that much, because so many people just didn't sell their home because they had a ton of equity. But here's where I would say a lot of demand is pent up, and that is in the purchase market as far as buyers. So right now, this is where rates are right here, and they polled buyers to say what their likelihood to buy depending on where rates were, and you can see at 6%, we go from 7% where we were just at to 41% from 16% if we get to 6% interest rates. And then obviously as the rates get lower, more people would buy. And this chart here kind of shows in this orange line here where rates, where the trajectory is predicted. And if we look in 2025, the prediction is 6.5. I think it will be lower than that at 6.25. And you can see 2026, they're saying 5.6, 2027, 5%. And though no one has a crystal ball, it is interesting to see that as rates fall, that is going to drive the market. And we've been saying, or I should say, I've been saying We are going to get a tailwind. Now, I thought that tailwind was going to happen last year when the Fed was pricing in all these rate cuts, and that got taken off the table with inflation. But now with the PPI and CPI, some of these numbers coming in more favorable, I think we're going to see that tailwind because it's just simple math. As payments get cheaper, it's going to drive more people in the market, and that is going to start happening this year. It's just really a matter of how much. And then we do get the Fed meeting this week, and you can see that there's a 97% chance, or almost 100%, that the market believes that the Fed will not cut the Fed funds rate. It'd be more important to see what the Fed says about cuts going forward. Right now, the market pricing in 2 to 3 cuts in 2025. If they were to take some of those off the table, that'd be bad for rates. This is not a political channel, but Trump and his team have said they want to drive down the 10-year Treasury, which would lower rates. And that is where I believe, with the combination of the new administration and the fact that the Fed is going to probably continue to cut, that we are going to see lower rates throughout this year, and we're going to see more demand. One last thing that I thought was really interesting, just showing how all markets are local. Florida is the epicenter of housing market weakness in 2025, basically saying in the U.S. But what I like is what he says right here. When you peel back the onion, there's a great deal of bifurcation across Florida, housing market, and product types. And they show this really big overview of Florida. Blue meaning positive appreciation over the last year, red meaning negative appreciation. And obviously, as we know, this West Coast part of Florida really getting the brunt of a lot of negative appreciation. And when we kind of zoom in to Orlando here, I look at this UCF area, 0.6% year over year in appreciation. Oviedo right here, 1.1%. So like I've been saying in most of these videos, pretty flat market. But if we do kind of go over here to the West Coast, you can see Punta Gorda, a lot of these areas having 8% or more depreciation over the last year or so. And then if we look at condos, that's a different story. Condos really taking the brunt of this a lot because of higher homeowners insurance, which make the HOA fees go up, and higher Fannie Mae requirements. We zoom in here to Orlando, again, same thing. UCF area, negative 3.3%, and Oviedo, negative 2.1%. Really, all that to say is the market's pretty flat. There are certain areas in Florida that have been hit hard by the hurricanes and changing guidelines with condos. But in general, if I were to map out this year, and we will see lower rates, more transactions, administration, I believe, will drive rates down. I believe the Fed will cut 2 to 3 times, and we will get that tailwind, hopefully, that we've been waiting for. And if you've made it this far, especially in the mortgage industry, where it has been tougher on the buyer side, we are going to see a better and better market. And if you're a home buyer that has been waiting for the big market correction, your big opportunity is still now. You're getting sellers paying closing costs. There's lots of opportunity. And we're going to see how the market plays out over the next 6 months. As more information becomes available that moves the market, as always, I'm going to cover right here. Have a great day, great week. This is Rayce Robinson, your favorite Florida mortgage broker. I'll talk to you soon.